Today is an honor and distinct pleasure to welcome back Rev Carrie Hunter. As most of you already know, Rev Carrie has been a spiritual teacher in BC for more than 20 years, and during this time has become known for her practical wisdom and authenticity. Here today with her talk, Keep the Miracles Coming, please join me in giving a warm, miraculous welcome to Rev Carrie Hunter.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's wonderful to have you here on this long weekend. I know there are many, many things that compete for your time on Sundays, and so it's especially wonderful, excuse me, on a holiday weekend to have you here. And for me, it's just a real joy. I always love being here with you. So lovely to see your shining faces and to feel your energy. I was just sharing with Carol this morning that as soon as I walk in, I just feel that unity energy in the building, and it is so wonderful.
It's not that unusual when everything is beautiful. It's just another ordinary miracle today. The sky knows when it's time to snow. Don't need to teach a seed to grow. It's just another ordinary miracle today. Life is a gift, they say. Wrap it up for you every day. Open up and find a way to get some for your own. Isn't it remarkable? Like every time a raindrop falls, it's just another ordinary miracle today. Birds in winter have the fling, but always make it home by spring. It's just another ordinary miracle today. When you wake up every day, please don't throw your dreams away. Hold them closely to your heart, for we are a part of that ordinary It's just another ordinary miracle today.
Thank you so much. So beautiful. Reminds me that early on in my classes on becoming a minister, we were taught that there was no such thing as a miracle, that everything is just absolutely normal. Most of us, though, are not at that place where we just look at them as being normal. When something really special happens, we say, it must have been a miracle. And I always have people coming to me saying, I really need a miracle, please pray for me. I really like the word, whether or not we're supposed to just say it's ordinary or just a normal kind of thing. There's something special and uplifting about it. So how many of you believe in miracles? Yeah. How many have experienced miracles? Yay, good. The thing is that once you've experienced one, then you're open to more. And every once in a while, I like to just kind of soar, to really feel the experience. And what happened to me in the last week is that I was putting some books away, and of course one fell off the shelf, and it's called Shortcut to a Miracle. And the authors are Michael C. Rand, who is a scientist, and Elizabeth Rand Arrett, who is a minister of New Thought. This is a book that I go back and read from time to time just because it makes me feel so good. The very first time I read it, I was on vacation and I was on a beach. I think it was in Mexico. And I couldn't put it down. I was with my daughters. And I kept saying, listen to this. And they were all into so many other things than this. And whenever I mention it, they say, oh yeah, it's that book you kept trying to read to us on the beach. And I said, yes, it is, and it's really worth reading. But there's something that always just stuns me when I start to reread this book, and I want to share that with you today, because it really is kind of the ultimate, enormous miracle. And when we start really considering it, and I used to think about this when I was a little girl. I used to be lying on the lawn at night. I don't know if it was summer, but I know it was warm, and it was in Calgary, so it couldn't have been winter. And as I was lying there looking at the sky, I was trying to identify various constellations because a neighbor, I was 7 years old, and a neighbor had given me a set of books of knowledge, and I was studying the star charts in it, and I wanted to be able to identify all of the constellations. But then I would reach the point of thinking, but what's beyond it all? There was something in me as a little girl that thought there has to be something more than this. And when I read this, or whenever I read it, it excites me, and I hope that it does the same for you. Approximately 15 billion years ago, our physical universe came into being in an explosion of absolutely incomprehensible force. At the moment of this great cosmic explosion, searing hot energy that had been compressed into a speck smaller than an atom was released. At the moment of this great cosmic explosion, I just read that, sorry, I had lost my place here, enough energy to form all the matter that exists in the universe today. And this, too, is virtually incomprehensible from a speck smaller than an atom. Planet Earth is part of the Milky Way galaxy, a cluster of some 200 billion stars. The span of our galaxy is 100,000 light years. To figure out how many miles this is, multiply 100,000 by 6 trillion. We now know that there are thousands of galaxies within 100 million light years from us and billions of others within the range of our largest telescopes. And the universe is still expanding. Some of these galaxies are up to 1 billion light years away and moving away from us at speeds of up to 100 million miles per hour. Now, I don't know who the traffic cops are who can measure that out there, but it is a significant amount of space and time. Most astonishing of all, if within 1 second of the moment of beginning, 1 second of the moment of beginning, the rate of expansion of cosmic energy had been different by plus or minus even 1 part per quadrillion. That's 1 followed by 15 zeros. You and I would not be here today. 1 part per quadrillion less, and the universe would have flown apart too fast for the galaxies, stars, and planets to form. 1 part per quadrillion more, and the universe would have collapsed in on itself before life could have evolved. In either case, we would not be here, and neither would anything else. That just, when I first read it, I remember just sitting for the longest time thinking of how many zeros there are after everything that's mentioned here, and how it could be measured, and how we might not even be here if not for that fraction of a second. And it just always fills me up and excites me, because I think, if something that enormous can happen and is still happening and is growing at such speeds every single day, then how can we doubt that we cannot be advancing in our own lives, that we cannot be miracle makers in our own lives? In fact, we are all miracle makers in our own lives, and that's something that we all really need to remember, because everything is possible, and there is no big or small in the mind of God. No big or small. If I say, you can have $1,000 or $1 million, there's no difference. The difference is in our minds. The difference is, well, I might have 1,000, but I don't know how I could ever have 1 million. The thing is, we need to feel that. We need to be in the feeling of what that is like. And it doesn't matter how much the amount of money is, or whatever it is that you have in your mind that you would like to create. Everything is possible, except that we get our minds in the way. Or perhaps we have been conditioned in a way that prohibits us from going forward. And if we're in that kind of space, then we really need to release it. We really need to remember this teaching. We really need to remember how powerful we are, that we are each beautiful expressions of God, that we are spirit having a human experience. Many years ago, there is a beautiful zoo in Washington, D.C., but many years ago, there was a very rare white tiger named Molan, and it was in a cage that was 12 feet by 12 feet. And every day it paced from side to side, 12 feet by 12 feet. Paced all day long, would lie down and have a nap, would get up and pace again. And it did that for 6 years. And all of a sudden, the people who managed the zoo said, we really need to give a natural habitat, because this just doesn't work. This animal should not be trapped inside a cage. And so they started to build a beautiful habitat for Molan. And it was 3 acres in space, and it was fenced in so that Molan could not escape. But there were hills, and there were little ponds, and there were trees, and it was beautiful. And so there'd been a lot of publicity around this, and when the grand opening of the new habitat came, the media were all there. There were all kinds of crowds of people wanting to see this beautiful animal released from its cage. And as the door was opened to allow Molan to come out, he very gingerly walked forward. And then with some coaxing, he jumped out. And then he went to a corner of this beautiful piece of land and started pacing 12 feet by 12 feet, 12 feet by 12 feet, and did until he died. He had been conditioned that was what his life was, that was all he could do. And we've heard stories of elephants, too, who've been tied to a peg, and they just walk in a circle, and then once the peg is removed, they keep on doing the same thing. we too are conditioned by things that we've been told when we were children and even as we get older in life. The question is whether or not we believe them. And if we have been conditioned to stay small, to believe that we can't be more than we are, to believe that this is our lot in life, and we shouldn't expect any more than that, we're not deserving, whatever it might be, that will affect us. Or if we have been conditioned to believe we can be anything that we want to be, we can do anything. How extraordinary is that in the way that we would feel? And if we were never told that as children, then we need to start telling it to ourselves and tell it to one another. When you leave here today, just say to your friend, you are the most extraordinary person. You can be anything you want to be. So can I. Yeah, what do you want to be? I will hold the vision for you. This is what I want to be. Hold the vision for me. We need to do those kinds of things for one another if we're not in our very best place. There's an expression, your best thinking got you here. So when we think about what our best thinking is, or how we are today, then we get some inkling of things that perhaps we need to heal within ourselves. The thing is, you are here today, and that means that you are already open. You're already wide open to a different kind of life. You're already open for miracles to happen to you. Ordinary miracles, extraordinary miracles, whatever you want to call them. What is your vision? What is your heart's desire? What do you want from this day forward? I was thinking of this a couple of weeks ago. There were a group of New Thought ministers, a large group of New Thought ministers, and we were all praying for the best possible outcome for the American election. And after doing that for a couple of weeks, all of a sudden Kamala Harris was the new candidate for president for the Democratic Party. And I don't mean to be political here, but I did watch the DNC, and I was astonished at the energy, the vibration, the joy. And I couldn't help but think how that spreads out among people who perhaps didn't have hope before, and all of a sudden have this renewed hope and vigor and have fun while they're doing it, and faith and hope in a better tomorrow. And I'm sure that there were a lot of people praying for the same thing, not just ministers. But the important thing is that they were praying. And the important thing is that their minds were not focused upon what I call ain't it awful. Instead, focused upon what the best possible outcome could be for their lives. Whatever that happened to be, no matter who that happened to be. And all of a sudden, there was somebody completely unexpected who brought joy and a lot of hope to people. And so, I know that nothing is impossible. Something that seemed almost impossible to me just weeks before that, all of a sudden, was a wonderful surprise. It was a wonderful miracle, I want to call it. And who knows what will happen, but let us hold the highest and best, whatever that may be, without directing it toward a certain human being, that the highest and best for America is happening, and the highest and best for our country is happening, whatever that might happen to be. And so know that you have that power. You have that power within for yourself, for your country, for this planet. And let us know that everything is possible, and let us not give up the idea that that is so. One of the things that happens when I first start teaching foundation classes for new people who come to the center where I am, is that the very first thing that they start to report after they've been in class for a few weeks is, I always get a parking spot wherever I go. I get the perfect parking spot. And I say, yes, and isn't that wonderful? And they say, it really is. And I come from a science of mind background, and Dr. Ernest Holmes used to call it Doris Day parking. Doris Day was one of the many celebrities who was part of his 3,000-person congregation on Wednesday nights in Beverly Hills. And she went running up to Dr. Holmes after she'd been there for a few months, and she said, I always get my own parking spot, my perfect one. And so from that point forward, he called it Doris Day parking, which I tend to call it too, because I think it's just kind of fun. And then what happens after a few weeks is they don't get their parking spots. And whenever I talk to them about that, I say, how come it's not happening? What are you thinking? And they said, well, it kept on working, and then I started to wonder if it was still going to work. Immediately upon doing that, we shut it down. An example might be if you buy lottery tickets, and you might say, I know I'm going to win. I can feel it in my bones. I know I'm going to win. Maybe you win a free ticket. Maybe you win $10, whatever. And then all of a sudden you start to wonder if you'll ever win anything again. It shuts the energy down. It shuts the vibration down. So is there anything in your life where you're shutting down the vibration for something that you really want? Are you saying, well, I've been thinking about that for a long time. I've been praying for it. But the thing is, it hasn't happened. Well, as soon as we get to it hasn't happened yet, we're shutting it down. And so we need to start thinking about this differently. We need to start thinking about prayer in a different way. The Fillmores and Ernest Holmes, totally believed in the power of prayer. There was absolutely no hesitation with that. And their gift to us is a teaching that the power of prayer is within us, that it works when we use it properly. Now, I'm fond of saying all prayer works if you get into the feeling nature. If you are feeling really connected with God, then it really works. Dr. Holmes, when he was 17 years old, he hated school. And he was really sick with a cold and a terrible sore throat. And his mother made him stay in bed. And he didn't feel much like doing anything else. And he read Emerson's book of essays while he was sick. And he came across the part on self-healing, where Emerson said, you simply imagine yourself well. Well, at 17, he imagined himself well, and within half an hour, he was completely fine. The sore throat was gone, the cold was gone. He got up and he said to his mother, I'm fine, I'm never going back to school. This is what I'm reading. This is what I'm studying. This is what I know I need to know. And about 13 years later, he was in LA and had started his own work at the encouragement of friends of his who had him speaking in a living room on Sundays to people, and the people paid 25 cents on Sundays. I think I worked that out in today's money, and it was something like $11. And it wasn't a large group of people, but very quickly the living room was way too full, and they rented another space, and then it was too full, and then they rented a space for 3,000 people. It just never stopped. And so people were hungry. They were hungry for the message. And I think that people are hungry for it today. I think in their heart of sacred hearts, they really want to know. But, we live such busy, busy, busy lives. And I'm always saying to people, to people in my center, don't leave home without doing your morning practice. Even if it's going to make you late, don't leave home without it. Something else will make you late. And, the thing is, I know that if ever I miss a day, which is hardly ever, then my day doesn't go as well. And at the end of the day, I'll think, what did I do? Why did this happen? And then I think, I didn't have my long talk with God before I left this morning. So it's always important for us to make that time. But also, I came across a wonderful book. I actually had the book for years and hadn't read it. This was when I was clearing my shelves. And it's a book by Greg Braden called The Lost Ancient Mode of Prayer. And it was extraordinary because I always remembered reading that Ernest Holmes prayed in silence. He taught people how to pray openly and with words, but he himself always prayed in silence. I always wondered what it was that he was thinking of when he was in silence. And Greg Braden talks about being with a Navajo friend out in the desert, Things were incredibly dry. They really needed rain. And they were walking in the desert to a medicine wheel. And when they got there, David, the Navajo, said to Greg, I'll just step into the medicine wheel and do that. You can just watch. So he stepped into the medicine wheel, and he lifted his head up to the sky, and he just looked radiant. And then he started walking in the sand in the medicine wheel, and it was kind of like a slow, almost laborious walk. And he had his arms outstretched. And he noticed that everything was suddenly, Greg noticed that all of a sudden everything was different. And when David finished his prayer, it was only a few minutes, he stepped out and he said, okay, it should rain now anytime. And Greg said, you were praying for rain? He said, and he said, no, I wasn't praying for rain. If you're praying for something, you're acknowledging it doesn't exist. And so you're shutting down the energy. He said, I was praying rain. He said, I was standing there imagining the feeling of the rain pouring down on my face, cooling my body. I was imagining the feeling of my feet in mud, mud caused by this fabulous storm. I was imagining rain. I was feeling rain. Anything that you want to have happen, you must feel it. Now, we know that we have to feel it, but it struck me as something very, very interesting. And Greg Braden said later he was leading a group of 22 people into monasteries in Tibet, and he talked to some of the monks in the monastery and asked them, well, what is it that's going on in your mind, or, how do you pray? I want to watch you pray. I want to see what that's like. And the monks all said to him, no, you don't see us pray. You don't wonder what we're praying. You feel the prayer. You feel your connection to the divine. You feel the connection to God that you are, the God inside of each of you, the spark of God that you are in existence right now. You feel that. And whatever it is that you have been desiring in your life, you simply feel what that would look like. You feel what that would, what would it feel like? What would it be like to have that experience? And you don't say it hasn't happened yet. You simply keep feeling it. Every day, before you go into prayer, imagine what it is, and then feel the feeling. Sit in the silence and allow God to just take over. And I thought how extraordinary that was, and actually had an experience with somebody in my realm who called me for prayer and asked if we could sit in silence afterward, and we did. And for about 15 minutes, and we were both sobbing. And what happened was our hearts just kind of blew wide open. The love was just pouring out of each of us. And what we experienced was that when we kind of set up the prayer and then went into the silence with one another, only love could prevail. Only God could prevail. This extraordinary experience. And so I invite you to look at things in your life in a different way right now, knowing that every miracle that you want in your life is possible, no matter how extreme it may seem. Go into that place. Let the love pour out of you. Feel the wonder of it all, the excitement, the magic, the same magic of this wildly expanding universe. Know that you are the presence itself. It is indwelling you. Everything is possible. You have each seen a miracle or experienced one. You are wide open to one, so let's keep the miracles coming. And so it is. Thank you.
That was a wonderful, and it spoke largely to me. So thank you. Yeah. So with that passion, enthusiasm, and guidance, I invite you to sing with me on this next song called Sanctuary. As we prepare our fertile miracle mind, let's do it. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living
Give it up one more time for Leora Cash and Jay Krebs. Woo! And thank you again, Reverend Carrie, for such an important message and being with us. You're a miracle. Whether you're here in person or online, you can give via e-transfer, which can be addressed to donations@unityofvancouver.org. And we have some good news. The city has now approved our park reservation change date, so we can have our rescheduled picnic for Sunday, September 22nd, same place and same time. The corner of Southwest Marine Drive and Balsam Street. Parking is on Balsam Street, and just be aware that it could be busy there. Please bring a dish to share and a musical instrument if you would like to provide entertainment. We're also excited to announce that we'll be bringing back our Explore Your Inner Being workshop at the end of September. Join us and awaken your ability to calm the mind, soothe the body, and radiate your true power. Amplify your ability to give and receive energy. Experience the power of connection in community. Embrace this opportunity to celebrate your divine self and share your true heart's nature in a circle of belonging. No need to register, as this is a drop-in class. You can find all the information on our website. And we have a new workshop that may interest you. This 2-hour introduction to A Course in Miracles is for people who are curious to learn more about the Course. We'll cover many topics that outline what the Course in Miracles program is all about and how you can get started. We'll hold this workshop on Sunday, September 15th from 2 to 4. Be sure to watch our website for more details. And of course, this Tuesday, you can check out our thriving Course in Miracles community by attending our Course in Miracles study group live from 12:30 to 2:30, right at Unity on the lower level. And if you have any questions on this or any events, please feel free to ask them at the bookstore after the service.